Hello, and welcome to the Real Shortbox Talks podcast. My name is Kevin.
I'm Jarrett.
And I'm Donald!
Today we will continue with part 2 of the Superhero Smackdown. Last time we finished, we had a very interesting discussion of Legion versus Resurrection Man. We got so deep into it that we said, you know what?
So deep.
We had to come back for part 2 so we can get to those other matchups. I believe me.
Sloppy seconds.
These 3 matchups are just as good as the other 3. And so we're going to break it down with the tail of the tape. We're going to start with Donald's 3-way matchup.
That's right, our first 3-way fight battle.
So what is it? What we have here? Yeah, Mr. Fantastic versus Plastic Man versus
Elongated Man.
Elongated Man. Oh my goodness.
How does this battle go down?
Okay, so how it goes down is I'm going to mention some of the powers that have been posted on several sites. Wikipedia as well as the Superhero Database. Shout out to both of those guys. I'm going to start out with probably the most filled out of all of the power sets, which is surprisingly Plastic Man.
Yeah, I can see that actually.
Plastic Man, who was Patrick the Eel O'Brien.
Right, he was like a criminal, right?
He was a criminal. He was originally, petty theft and crime, larceny, things like that. And he was involved in an accident in which his body was bathed in an unknown industrial chemical mixture.
Been there.
That also entered into his bloodstream through a gunshot wound.
Oh,
wow, that's very specific.
So he was shot and got this chemical mixture spilled into an open wound, which gave him these powers. Now, speaking of powers, we're going to mention quite a few here that Plastic Man seems to have. Patrick the Eel O'Brien exists in a fluid state, neither entirely liquid or solid, which I found to be quite interesting. Plastic Man has complete control over his entire molecular structure. He can stretch his limbs and body to superhuman lengths and sizes. There is no known limit to how far he can stretch his body, unlike pretty much everybody else I've read about here. Size alteration, he can shrink himself down to a few inches tall,
Right.
or become a titan. He can also become a shapeshifter. Of course, he can contort his body into various positions and sizes impossible for ordinary humans, or he can use his fingers to pick a conventional lock. He can also use this to disguise the shape and look of his face by changing it, although that is very hard for him to pull off, apparently. He has superhuman agility, superhuman strength, which he can alter strength by growing or adding more muscle, which I found to be quite interesting. If you're just not quite strong enough, just add some more muscle to yourself.
That's nice, yeah.
And you're good to go, yeah. One of his few limitations is his color change abilities. It's really extremely hard for him to concentrate to change the color of himself.
Right.
Which means that he's usually wearing some type of red.
Right.
With a little bit of white or something. So, if you caught on to him, he's, I guess he's no chameleon in that aspect.
So is he actually wearing clothes, or are those just like what he just imagines his costume to look like?
That's what he imagined. He's buck naked.
Wow.
Just imagining a costume on the outside. Yeah.
And it's adhesive.
Right. He's also invulnerable. Basically.
That comes in handy.
Yeah. He can withstand puncture wounds.
Fire?
Bombs. Fire will be mentioned here shortly. He's completely bulletproof. He is able to withstand corrosives. He also has telepathic immunity.
Oh, wow.
Jesus
So
Christ.
he
I was
is-
actually going to say, well, you could attack his mind.
He's actually able to change the composition of his brain to
Oh,
where
wow.
he cannot be telepathically controlled.
Oh, that's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah. He's basically immortal.
Immortal, invulnerable, and can do anything with his body.
Right. Ultrasonic detection. His body will start to ripple when ultrasonic frequencies are triggered.
Right.
So he can sense certain, villains or heroes that have ultrasonic powers. He is also, they state, a master detective. He's also to be considered a lateral thinker and much smarter than he lets on, which is also pretty important when it comes to fighting against some of the big guns. His only weakness that I'm aware of is to extreme temperatures. His semi-liquid form remains stable at relatively high and low temperatures, provided that the temperature change is gradual. But he can be frozen and broken into many pieces, and then would have to thaw to bring himself back together again. Or he can be pretty much melted into a puddle
Right.
until that flame is reduced and he can be able to be brought back together again.
Jesus.
All in all, he can restore himself, no matter what. So that's Plastic Man. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Is that it? No, I'm just kidding.
Right. So let's go to Elongated Man, whose page I was looking at, and you can see in front
It's
of
a
me.
paragraph.
Yeah, it's pretty small. Elongated Man can stretch his limbs and body to super lengths. He has heightened agility, enabling him flexibility and coordination that is beyond the natural limits of the human body. He can contort his body, just like Plastic Man can. What he can do is he can disguise his shape and his face, although it's painful and difficult for him to do. He can disguise himself. He doesn't have to carry the natural color of what he's wearing like Plastic Man does.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a one-up I see there. He also is a professionally trained detective.
Right. He's supposed to be like second to Batman.
Right, awfully considered as one of the most brilliant, second only to Batman and perhaps The Question or Ted Kord,
Right.
the Blue Beetle. So that's Elongated Man. That's Ralph Dibny, by the way. It's his real name.
He's also got the superpower to have his wife brutally murdered.
Which we've talked about.
Oh, poor guy.
Poor guy. And last but not least is Something Fantastic. Reed Richards, a.k.a. Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four. He is a super genius. He has the highest intellect of any superhero in the known superherodom.
Right.
He has the ability to convert the mass of his entire body into a highly malleable state. In such a state, he can stretch, deform, expand, or compress his entire body, much like the other two can. The difference is they get a little particular here with the Marvel guy. The maximum length he can distend before his body segments become painful is about 1,500 feet.
That's a skyscraper.
Right. So as some of these guys, we don't know the lengths that they can go. We're told exacts or where thereabouts with Mr. Fantastic. He can create himself into a canopy, a parachute, or sheath. He can compress his body into the shape of a solid sphere, a cylinder.
Like a sheath. God damn it, I don't have my sheath for my sword. All right.
Now you do.
Thanks.
Mr.
Now you're
Fantastic.
just like hanging out with me as my sword?
You're right. He can generate himself into thin-walled shapes that paper thin. He can flatten himself to the thickness of an average, of course, paper, or narrow himself to a diameter small enough, and this is what I found interesting, small enough to pass through the eye of a number 10 beading needle. About
That is
0.0
very specific too.
Right, about 0.045 by 0.06 inches. So that seems to me that he can thin himself out a little bit more than the others. I could be wrong. But then again, Plastic Man can liquefy himself, and liquid can pretty much pour through any crack or opening. So go figure. Mr. Fantastic is able to absorb the impact of any type of man-made ballistic projectile by deforming his body along the path of the projectile's trajectory. Mr. Fantastic's skin is virtually impervious to laceration or punctures unless he willfully relaxes his reflective control over small areas of his body. In that case, scalpels and ordinary needles can penetrate his skin, which I found interesting. He can allow it if he wants, but otherwise, no,
So
it's
that
not going
way,
to happen.
if you want to give him a blood test, that's the way.
Right, something like that. So it'd be like Superman, like being able to make his skin weaker,
So that's just Marvel for you. That's somebody going like, well, we have to get a little realistic here.
Right.
What if he needs to get blood work done?
As far as this SmackDown goes,
Who you got?
I'm going to give it to Plastic Man. And here's my reasonings behind it. I know this is going to be another controversial one because a lot of people know that Mr. Fantastic is the smartest man ever and could easily create something to defeat Plastic Man, albeit if he has the time.
Right.
Now, Plastic Man, having been in the villainous world, in the world of baddies,
Right.
knows that given enough time, he can be caught
Right.
as a burglar or as someone fighting another hero or villain.
Right.
He's not going to give Mr. Fantastic that time. Elongated Man, to me, he would be the first out of the fight.
Yeah.
Just based off of his skill set. I mean, he's a great detective, but...
He would be like, I figured out I'm losing this
Right,
fight.
yeah, I detect a fist coming to my face.
I've deduced I'm losing.
And that's it. So Elongated Man, to me, he's going to be the first one out, and probably rather quickly. Either Mr. Fantastic or Plastic Man would be able to take him out with
Right.
much ease. It'll basically come down to the two, Mr. Fantastic and Plastic Man.
Right.
Now, they state very obviously that Plastic Man is susceptible to freezing and to high temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
I will argue the fact that so is Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just based off of the similarities in their component structure, their molecular structure. That there's a lot of similarities there, so they're probably vulnerable to the same things. Now, the big difference for me, and one of these has really struck with me, was that Plastic Man can create more strength.
Right.
He can create more muscle by just adding that mass where it needs to be, because he is more fluid
Right.
than stretch. And Mr. Fantastic is just stretchy.
Right.
So he can stretch, but he still has limitations with his strength, whereas Plastic Man does not. Right. Plastic Man's pretty much immortal, whereas Mr. Fantastic is not. So if it came down to it, if we just played the waiting game and the two just fought each other for like 35 years, Mr. Fantastic might just pass away of old age, and Plastic Man would still stay. Although that being said, since Plastic Man is rather fluid, I would like to propose the fact that Plastic Man could also dip himself down inside of Mr. Fantastic,
Right.
and he would choke on him, basically
Right.
drowning in a pool of Plastic Man.
Aw.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess for me, it's... I like to picture these fights as just like these people appeared. It's like boom, 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 go. Like you got to fight.
Mhm.
If there was time to deduce everything and study the other opponent, I definitely would say... And well, first off, I'm with you that Dibney is out. Mr.
He'd be
Elongated Man
Right.
would
He'd
be
be
out
eliminated
super
first.
fast. Reed Richards' intellect is, it's like incomparable. So if he was able to plan, I could definitely see him coming up and finding, not necessarily with his powers, but his brain of like, I could contain him in this bubble and I would just keep him in that for the rest of his life. Something like that. However, I just think it comes down to the invulnerability, and like I've seen Reed Richards. We talked about another podcast when they were fighting the leader of the Imperial Guard, Gladiator. He outstretched him over the city, and that was it. Like he was done for a while. He had to like kind of like pull himself back together. Plastic Man just seems on another whole level. Like I specifically remember a Batman around that Obsidian Age, a JLA book where Batman was just talking to Plastic Man, and Plastic Man is the opposite of Reed Richards. He's more of just kind of a fun-loving, like whatever, let the chips fall where they may kind of thing. And Batman was like, do you realize how powerful you are? Like, you have no idea how powerful you are. And he's like, what? Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, whatever. But yeah, and then hearing all that stuff, like the invulnerability, Reed wouldn't be able to, it just would come down to what you're saying, just like staying power. Plastic Man has way more staying power and would eventually tire Reed out, and that would be it. So I give it to Plastic Man. The only way I would give it to Reed is if he had time to plan it, because then he would just, like I said, he wouldn't be using his powers though. He'd just be using his mind,
Right.
and he would just come up with something, like I said, to just be like, "You're in this force shield for the rest of your life." Boom.
Well, this is where my chess versus checkers theory comes into play. And talking about time and whatnot, I believe that Richards would be able to get the victory over Plastic Man for one reason. I believe he would gain access to the ultimate nullifier.
That popped in my head. But I'm saying, what if they're just... He'd have to leave the fight, go get it.
But what if he already had it on him, or at least close to him?
Possible.
You know.
That is surely possible, but that's funny. I'm saying it's conjecture. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
it's conjecture.
It's a bunch of
Yeah,
what
we're dealing
ifs.
with facts here.
Right. Yeah.
Wikipedia facts.
I mean,
Well, that's what I'm saying. I like
Reed
to
Richards
imagine it...
always thinks ahead.
Well,
right,
that's what I'm
but
saying. I like to imagine it, though, as if, for instance, on the first one, like Aquaman, Submariner. It wasn't
Right.
like Aquaman had time to summon all the Atlantean army and Submariner had time to summon all the army. It was literally just like, hey, two guys meet in an ocean, and now they're going to duke it out, and who's going to win, kind of thing like that. Same with, like, three stretchy guys meet in the middle of Manhattan. who wins?
Regardless, even with that in play, you think Reed Richards just gonna be hanging out with no kind of devices on him at all, and no kind of technology, no tech at all?
Well, I mean, he can go run off the Four Freedoms Plaza, but
No, he doesn't have to do that. You don't understand. He's gonna always have some kind of device on him.
in
So
his
he-
plastic pockets.
Yes.
Yeah, in what? I
Those
mean,
stretchy pockets?
how many comic books have we read where he's actually had something in him or on him? Not all the time.
not all the time, but I
I mean, now
sense-
let's say Plastic Man knocks him into a Home Depot.
Right.
Reed Richards might be able to hide long enough to create something to knock him down, or at least, disable him temporarily. But we're talking a guy that survived 300 years in the ocean
Yes, true.
as nothing more than little tiny pieces.
Yes.
Also,
yes.
historically, reading Fantastic Four comic books, Reed's never that great in a fight. He's usually like stretches around somebody to hold them there, like to contain them, or he makes a big fist or something like that and might knock like a bunch of like Doombots aside. But
Or parachutes out of there.
Yeah,
You know
right.
what I mean? There's not a lot of creativity so much
But
behind
yes, a
him.
straight physical fight, of course. You're absolutely right. Plastic Man takes it, but
Plastic Man's clever too.
Yes.
Look at it that way. I mean, Reed Richards could be sitting down on a park bench and it's Plastic Man, and he already has him.
right.
He already has him.
then he gets a Plastic Man enema. Done.
He just that's no joke. That could happen. He could run his Plastic Man body right up through
The colon
Mr.
of Mr.
Fantastic's
Fantastic.
butthole, right up into his intestinal tract, and stretch it so far beyond the 1,500 feet that he basically tears him apart, killing him. Imagine that.
I'd buy that comic book if that was the
Imagine that.
end of, and I'd also be okay
Yeah.
if that's how Mr. Fantastic died. I don't know. So is that 2-1 then?
It's 2-1.
I guess. I
Let's
mean,
do it
I don't
again.
know if we're going to convince Kevin that
No.
Plastic Man can take Mr. Fantastic.
Reed Richards' intellect is a force of nature
It's incredible.
in itself.
It's incredible.
Right.
And maybe just for me, I just feel that yes, if it's just like simple, like you said, he sits on a park bench. Yes, of course. If it's him, it's over. But I just feel that Reed Richards, on the brink of death, would pull it out in the end somehow, some way.
But think of it this way also. Plastic Man, again, you're talking chess versus checkers.
Right.
Plastic Man doesn't have anything to lose. And Reed has everything to lose.
Because it's
Yeah,
family.
he's a
It's
family
family.
man.
So we're talking about a family man. But the moment that Plastic Man threatens another one of the Fantastic Four, which could easily happen,
Right.
Reed Richards would just become putty, and that'd be the end of it.
Right.
It would be too distracting. And Plastic Man, I think, even could potentially split himself into another Plastic Man. I haven't seen it, but if we're talking somebody that's fluid and rubber like that, I don't see why that's not possible.
Right.
Like
You know,
more
I never thought about that.
Plastic Men. So then you have maybe he shoots one with something. You've got 5 more liquid plastic men behind you or around you. I just don't see any way Reed can win besides the fact if he's super prepared. If Plastic Man's like, I'm going to kick your ass on Friday in 2 weeks. Then
No, that's where I think Reed
Okay.
would
So
excel.
basically,
yeah.
we'll go with 2 scenarios. If Richards just has an idea that Plastic Man's going to be at the center of town,
if Reed Richards had a day to plan for it, he would probably win.
or even
Right.
or even 15 minutes to prepare before, he knows he's attacking the Plastic Man. The bad Plastic
Right.
Man is like attacking the city or something like that. He'll know what to do in advance. But you're right. If they just happen to meet, he doesn't know he's there, and he just attacks him, and he's by himself.
And nobody knows the limits of anybody's powers.
Right.
you
There's
know?
there's no Human Torch around. There's no Invisible Woman around. No thing around. It's just one on one. Then yeah, fine. I will give it to Plastic Man.
Stick a fork in him.
So basically, if it's very little time to prepare, we'll give it to Plastic Man. If there's some time to prepare, Mr. Fantastic takes it.
And we all agree that Elongated Man
Has no
is
chance
just
in hell.
paste.
No chance in hell
Just-
against either one of these
Just
guys.
paste. And by the way, the oldest of the characters, the one that was created first, was actually Plastic
Plastic
Man.
Man.
40s or something, right? Or
Yeah,
something
around
crazy.
there.
Like
Uh-huh.
His Golden Age character.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely golden.
And
Age
what was
character.
what was his comic line? It wasn't DC originally, right?
Was it Quality or First?
I
think it
believe it's Quality Comics.
Yeah, because he was also in there, I think, with the Freedom Fighters. Uncle
Yes.
Sam
Oh,
and those
yeah,
guys. Yeah, so so that's my SmackDown. It looks like we're at kind of 2-1, but then we could
Judging by
be
scenarios.
3-zip or we could be 3-zip. It just depends. So
Depends on the scenario.
yep. So we'll just say 2-1 for now, and who would like to go next?
Kevin, you want to go?
I will go next. My matchup is of the Battle of the Green Monsters.
Oh, I've been waiting for this one.
I have the Incredible Hulk versus Swamp Thing.
That's very interesting.
That's extremely interesting.
Yes, indeed. Now, very quickly, let me go over the powers of Swamp Thing. He's an elemental. His body is composed of sentient vegetable matter.
Sounds dangerous.
You know, he has self-sustenance. He has the ability to nourish himself.
Oh, that's important.
Like, who wants Brussels sprouts?
Exactly. You know, using the external energy source, obviously, he can use photosynthesis. He has superhuman strength, of course. Elemental control. He has mastery of all forms of plant life. Can command vegetative matter to do his bidding. And through this power, through the green, as you know, he is in the constant communication with the very essence of the earth and serves as the planet elemental for the entire planet. And Swamp Thing also, formerly the elemental of all the elements, includes fire, water, earth, air, and flesh.
Isn't that a band?
Yes.
Earth, wind, and swamp thing.
And he has something called chlorokinesis, the ability to commune with plant life and to control its growth and form. So obviously he can summon vines, you know, to ensnare you and choke the life out of you. What else here? Enhanced intellect, because you know Alec Holland was a scientist, a brilliant man.
Did he maintain that when he was Swamp Thing?
Yes.
Yes.
So unlike the other guy in this,
Well, it's funny you mention that. You know, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, right.
You know, but yes, that can certainly be an advantage.
right?
And he has immortality because obviously plants can keep growing and growing, and he can also transfer his consciousness if need be. So therefore, he can be immortal. Size alteration, regeneration, resurrection.
With the transportive skill, he could be in China in a flower bed and be in Portland, Oregon, near a waterfall.
Right.
He has that ability to spring up his consciousness all over the world. Plant life is extremely powerful.
Absolutely.
It's extremely strong.
Well, also poisonous. There's lots of poisonous
Yeah.
Oh yes.
plants.
And so that's all his powers and everything pretty much.
Yes, is all his powers and abilities.
Okay, and the Hulk, most of us already are very familiar with the Hulk and his
Hulk gets angry.
Hulk smash. Hulk is strongest there is.
Great leaping ability.
The more angry he gets, the stronger he gets.
The powerful thunderclap.
Right. And,
Accelerated healing. You just keep shooting him and stabbing him.
but what not everybody knows about is the color variations.
Yes, the gray
so to speak.
and green.
Right.
Now, if I recall, fellas, Gray, when he's the Gray Hulk, he maintains Banner's intelligence, but he's not as powerful, not as
Right.
strong. And when he's the original traditional green color, he's
He's like a 4-year-old.
like a 4-year-old. But there's a caveat.
Very strong.
If you recall, back in the early '90s, he was able to be the Green Hulk and maintain
Yeah, he had
Banner.
like the,
Banner was able to basically control him.
Peter David, if I recall.
Yes.
Like that.
he had like the little head. He had the little head. It was like a smaller head because it was like
The way it was
the
drawn.
brain. Yeah.
But he was able to maintain, his super strength.
Right.
So, who do you have in this?
This would be an
And don't forget,
what's that?
the madder Hulk gets,
Oh,
stronger Hulk gets.
Oh yes, of course. Hulk get madder, Hulk get stronger. Yes, of course. Obviously, if you keep pissing him off, he just keeps coming at you.
Right.
He's almost like a what's kind of funny. This kind of is the what's that old saying? The irresistible force, meaning the immovable object. That's what this matchup is.
Right.
The immovable object being the Incredible Hulk, and the irresistible force being the Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, again,
You and I talked about this.
we did.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion, in this scenario, it'd be a great battle, of course. It'll probably take God knows how long, days, weeks on end, this will go on for.
I don't know if we said it too. Are we going traditional Hulk?
Yes, we'll go.
Okay.
Sorry, yes, we'll go traditional Hulk.
Okay.
This battle will go for weeks on end. I believe, using my chess versus checkers theory, that Swamp Thing would win. Because the fact that he can control plant life throughout the entire Earth, move his consciousness around, and obviously he can use poison to, let's say, knock out the Hulk, and perhaps weaken him to a point where he turns back into Banner, or put some kind of poison into his brain, to affect him there. There's all kinds of things he can do. all kinds of things he can do.
Yeah. It was funny because he mentioned it to me at one point. Kevin did, that he was planning on doing this SmackDown. And instantly for me, my response was justification for who he thought would win. And I 100% agree with him on this, by the way. Swamp Thing, hands down, takes the Hulk.
Right.
And the way I see it is, and we talked about it, the first thing I mentioned off the top of my head was he has access to any type of plant life, including ones that will knock you the fuck out.
Right.
And keep you knocked out. He can continuously gas
And
Hulk
meanwhile, he can keep setting vines to keep choking Hulk. So yeah,
more and more
so
and more
Hulk,
and more.
Hulk will he'll break through some, but he can keep bringing them and bringing them and bringing them. He can get more stronger and angrier, but it doesn't matter. It'll just keep coming and coming and coming. He can set vine after vine, tree after tree, plant after plant, just hold them down. Basically, it's almost like you can't escape. He'll get through one part of it, another part will grab him again. It's almost like he could create a super Venus flytrap, essentially.
It's the Magneto Superman
Battle.
theory all over again.
Yes.
Swamp Thing just keeps him buried and keeps him subdued, and then drugs him essentially until he can no longer move and is no longer an issue. And if he ever wakes up or starts to wake up, even moves slightly, Swamp Thing will know. He can feel it. He has roots.
Yep. And remember, he is the representative of the green.
Representative of the green. All
so
of
he
that
has
energy.
one of those distilleries, those dispensaries.
Well, very special dispensary.
Yeah, he could get the Hulk high as shit.
He's got one of those green crosses on the front of his house. We've mentioned the Palookas before. The Super Palookas is a group that Donald and I belong to on Facebook. Just a bunch of comic lovers. And there's one guy on there, Sean O'Neill, who is maybe the biggest Hulk fan. So, Sean, I'm sorry. I too agree.
We're bursting your bubble on
I
this one,
do
buddy.
agree. For a variety of reasons. It's an elemental force versus strength. Versus brute force.
A man-made, manufactured force.
Right.
With gamma radiation, no doubt, which is no joke.
Right.
But this is something that even he can't handle.
No.
Well, he's an elemental. It's like we were talking about this too, like ways that the Hulk has been beaten. It's like there's just Doctor Strange would always come and be like, for instance, there's a comic, one of my favorite Hulk stories, when he was separated from Banner and he was just pure rage, and they sent in the West Coast strongest and the East Coast strongest of the Avengers. They had Wonder Man and Iron Man from the West Coast Avengers, and they had Submariner and Hercules of the Avengers at that time. All four of them got their ass kicked by the Hulk, because that's brute strength versus brute strength, and when you're dealing with that, the Hulk is the strongest.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not brute strength. This is something more. This is nature coming at you. And like we said, it's like Doctor Strange would usually end up coming in and be like, all right, they'd be like, who's going to punch the Hulk next? And Doctor Strange would be like, what are you guys doing? And put him like on another planet. Not in that sense of teleportation, just putting him somewhere, but there's just so many things coming at him. And like we said, he could put some kind of plant in him that makes him just go to sleep and poisons him or something like that, and then just maintain that and maintain it and maintain it. And there's also the idea of that he might also turn back into Banner. If we're dealing with the original Hulk, after this, if he gets put to sleep and he's not enraged anymore,
True.
He goes back to Banner, and then it's just night. It's completely good night. Like, you're done.
Indeed.
So,
and even if I throw that monkey wrench that I kind of mentioned earlier about early 90s Hulk, where he has Banner's intellect in there working, be a little more interesting. He'd be, probably trying to procure a weapon to try and subdue.
Right. Then again, it's another Reed Richards Plastic Man scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If given the time, the Grey Hulk could potentially create a scenario to where he would be victorious. But
or even, like I said, even Green Hulk with Banner's
Swamp
mind.
Thing's not gonna. Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
But Swamp Thing's not gonna give him
an inch.
that time.
Especially when you have the entire planet, all the plants on the entire planet at your disposal.
If you look at the videos where they show, they would say this is what New York would look like in 100 years if no humans were there, and then they show the vegetation and everything
Moss,
that's
everything,
grown
plants.
over everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
It would be the same scenario almost instantaneously though, because Swamp Thing, it's a drop of water versus the ocean.
Yep.
You just can't contain
Can't win.
Swamp Thing in that manner.
Nope.
It's just
Especially if he
not
was,
gonna happen.
especially if he was forced, and he would be forced against the Hulk to use like the full extent of his power. If it was coming down to a life and death struggle, yeah.
And he's also one of those guys you can like pull apart and then like he'll just come back together, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
he'll form right behind you.
so that doesn't so brute strength means like nothing to that,
right.
You
It's
know,
no
like,
big deal. Like, thank you.
yeah.
You know.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we're in full agreement on that one.
Full agreement. Yeah.
So we're sorry to your friend
Sean, sorry.
Sean. We're sorry, but if you think about it, sir, and you use my chess versus checkers theory, or just simply just the elemental element to this, there's just no way. When it's all said and done, the Hulk would be smashed.
Right. Oh, poor Hulk.
I like that.
All right. Well,
Looks like you're up to bat.
last but not least, I got my superhero SmackDown is the mighty Thor versus Black Adam.
Oh boy.
Oh.
Now,
Two gods.
Almost. Funny you should mention that. Two gods, you say. Well, let's go to their powers first, and then we'll get to that, because that, right, you just said right there, is what is wherein lies my my reasoning for who would win this fight. And first off, full disclosure, I'm gonna be biased. I can't help it. I do have Black Adam tattooed on my back,
He does.
but
And you're a fan of The Rock as well, aren't you?
no, I don't really care about him.
Oh.
But buckle the fuck up. All right. Thor's powers. So basically, like all Asgardians, Thor is immortal. He's a god. He's been alive for many, many years, although it's kind of weird.
few.
Yeah. Although it's kind of weird because I think it's like the power of Thor has been around, but remember they've bonded him to humans many times. That's kind of how, Donald Blake, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, another Donald.
Strong name.
Exactly. Thor is immensely strong. We were just talking about the Hulk. He's gone toe-to-toe with the Hulk, and some can argue he would win, maybe half the time, and Hulk would win half the time. So he's definitely up there. He has kind of like the Hulk rage thing. He has something called the Warrior's Madness, which is his Norwegian berserker rage, which I think would come to play when he's fighting like thousands of frost giants, and he's just going crazy. He's got obviously heightened senses, all that stuff. He could see things going the speed of light. But his main power, aside from being a god and immortality and everything, is he's the god of thunder, and he has a very special weapon, a hammer, Mjolnir. Mjolnir is a weapon that was designed and made for him specifically. It can conjure lightning. It could... It can have magical aspects. He can teleport, like we were saying, Doctor Strange. He can teleport into other dimensions. He and maybe a couple other people have been the only ones who've been able to lift it. He has control over it coming back to him. It's one of the most formidable weapons in the Marvel universe or in comic bookdom. So that's him in a nutshell. He's a god, and he's the god of thunder and lightning. Now we go to Mr. Theo Adam, Teth Adam, Black Adam. Black Adam he has the power of God, plural. Much like, I was going to do originally Captain Marvel, Billy Batson, Shazam, however you want to call him, but he's got the little boy in him. And I like Black Adam. Black Adam was, if you don't know the history, he's a grown man. He was the original bearer of the power of Shazam from the Wizard Shazam, judging on what origin you go with. Supposedly, my favorite version is what Jeff Johns did with him, because Jeff Johns in the JSA book made him very human, and basically it was just like the Wizard Shazam was like, yeah, I gave you this power to like be a hero, but all you did is like protect your people, and that wasn't enough, and I'm like banishing you, and it was just kind of a dick move. I always thought, I was like, wait, but so Black Adam has had the power of Shazam for thousands of years. So, and the power of Shazam is the power of Shazam, 6 gods. He has the stamina, and there's 6 Egyptian gods for him, whereas it's Greek gods for Billy Batson. But he has the stamina of Shu, which is unlimited stamina. He can withstand and survive most types of extreme physical assaults. Additionally, he does not need to eat, sleep, or breathe and can survive unaided in space.
Wait. But does he have to drink mead or wine or
No.
beer or anything?
That's just
No.
something that Thor enjoys.
Okay, all right.
In his off time.
Okay.
He has he's immortal, and he has magical energies coursing through his body that allow him to do all kinds of feats of stamina. He has the swiftness of Heru, which means he has supernatural speed. Black Adam can move at sublight speeds in orbit in outer space. Black Adam can fly at translight speeds. So he's like he's not as fast as a Flash, but he's up there. He's got the strength of Amon, so he's got a phenomenal level of strength. Like it says, he could punch through walls. Yeah, I would hope so. Produce powerful shockwaves by clapping his hands, a la the Hulk. He's gone toe-to-toe with Superman and Captain Marvel, so that's saying something. On at least one occasion, he was able to hold his own against an assemblage of the Justice League, Justice Society, the Great Ten, the Martian Manhunter, who has strength depicted as close to Superman, and the Teen Titans, all by himself.
Wow. Jesus, Lord have mercy.
He has the wisdom of Zehuti, which we all know.
All right.
Black Adam has instant access to a vast level of scholarly knowledge, so he can tell you about really good books and novels.
Oh, good.
Provides him with the counsel and advice in times of need. He has the power of Aton, which it's fueled by magic, the lightning bolt. So pretty much he can also conjure lightning, and sometimes I've seen him disperse it. He has the courage of Mehen, which with him also makes him extremely cocky. So those are his powers. And then if you're going in current time, he had a wife named Isis, who was another goddess, Egyptian goddess. She, I believe, died, and he got her power too, so his power was doubled.
Jesus.
Yeah. But even taking that away, I give it to Black Adam because I love him. But also, mainly, he's got the power of 6 gods. So it's just math. 6 gods to 1. Thor has experience. Thor is, he's got the Berserker Rage. This is by no means easy fight. I believe this is would just decimate, a world.
If not multiple.
Yeah. Right. And I just see it at the end. And they're both, I think, equally as vicious. I give Black Adam just a little more because also, once again, we've talked about this. He's fighting for his people. He's fighting for his family.
I'd give him a little more, too.
Yeah.
He'll pull the dirty
Also,
tricks.
using the chess versus checkers theory, I believe he's a little more intelligent than Thor.
Right. And he's literally got a wisdom of a god.
Yeah,
he's more of a strategist.
He's a strategist. He has wisdom that stretches back thousands of years.
Yeah.
Again, he's been
there.
He's been in an army. He's been through war. He knows what it's like. Might I just say, though, that while Black Adam does have some lightning-like aspects, we are talking about the god of thunder.
Right.
Yeah.
We are talking about somebody that can control, theoretically speaking, lightning's power.
And he's the son of Odin. You can't sneeze at that.
No. So it would be much tougher for me to say that Black Adam could take Thor, simply for that fact. But I'm going to put in the fact that they're also both rather arrogant.
Extremely. Yeah.
I think Thor's more stupidly arrogant.
Right.
Where Black Adam is just I'm the best there is ever.
Right. I'm a god, and I've been given this power, so
and no one can defeat me.
Right.
Arrogant.
Right.
That is a giant pitfall for me to get across, because somebody that feels that they're undefeatable and they have no weakness oftentimes finds themselves at the bottom of a pile,
right,
on the ground, hurting,
whimpering, crying in the shower,
right.
Mascara
that being
running.
said,
yeah,
even with his mascara running, I might still possibly give the edge to Black Adam, and that's simply because the man has a lot to fight for, nothing to lose for himself. He's never said, I want to live.
Right.
I want my people to live. I want to protect others like-minded like me.
And that's one of the most dangerous person out there.
Right. So I think he's got a little bit more. Thor obviously cares, don't get me wrong, But if Adam catches him with one too many barrels of mead in his belly,
Right.
that might be over sooner than we would think.
Right.
And if Adam catches Thor like that. So I would give a slight edge to Black Adam, but I would weigh on the side of caution with this fight.
It'd be a great
because
fight.
9 times out of 10, it's gonna come to a draw, I think. And that 10th
Yeah.
time
Like I said, this
might
is
go
no
to
way
Adam.
like boom, you're dead. Like and none of them are gonna give up as far as I see.
Nope.
So like
Nope, they'll go
Fight
on
to the death.
They'll
Yeah.
go on for 1,000 years if necessary.
yeah.
To the death, absolutely. But I think Adam will eventually take him. So I will agree with you. Black Adam.
Well, the lightning thing that you brought up because I was like, because you've seen it happen with Captain Marvel before. It's like tricking him into saying Shazam or something,
Right.
then stealing the lightning. And Thor, like you said, is the god of thunder.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're both dealing like mystical lightning and literal lightning and all that stuff. So it's like I don't think Thor could like suck the energy from him. I almost think that part of their powers would just kind of nullify,
Yeah.
each other. Because it would just be like, yeah, you have the lightning, I have the lightning. Like, we're not doing anything to each other. Like,
So
we're just,
let's not use lightning.
yeah, let's just punch.
Yep. What do you think, Kevin? You agree with that that thought that lightning is ineffectual and that Black Adam can take Thor?
Yes, I do.
You do? Okay. Well, then that's 3 out of 3 for us on that.
Good, I get to keep my tattoo.
Why? You gonna get a Thor tattoo if necessary after this?
That was the rule, yeah.
Well, we were gonna put the Mjolnir.
Mjolnir?
Mjolnir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. In his hands, we're gonna tattoo it into Black Adam.
Now, would a Black Adam have that in his hands?
I don't think he'd be worthy enough to pick it up. I think you have to be more noble, and I don't think he's a noble person. Like when Beta Ray Bill was able to do it, that made sense to me. I like that story.
But isn't there a way around that though? If you're just so powerful, isn't there a way for like a bad person with just such great power to pick it up?
The only thing I've seen that was relatively where somebody used it against him was Thor was fighting Juggernaut, and he threw it at Juggernaut, and it hit Juggernaut, but it didn't do anything to him. And then went back. It was going back to Thor, and Juggernaut hitched a ride on it, and then it was his hammer and Juggernaut coming back at him, and he just knocked his ass, across.
I like that.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, that sounds like that's how we would end a podcast.
Yeah.
Is, Juggernaut coming for us to knock our asses out.
Don't mess with the Juggernaut. I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Jarrett.
I'm Donald.
I'm Kevin.
This has been the Real Short Box Talks.
Please subscribe.
Check out the YouTube channel. Check out everything. And tell your friends. Tell a soul. Tell everybody. And we'll see you at the comic shop.